Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and welcome to the channel if you're new to it. This is Hayden Newberry Fishing. Figured I'd talk about Lake Hartwell today, get caught back up on some of my videos. Been super busy after that tournament, and I think I tried to make one recap of the tournament right after it was over, and I was so tired and everything. I went to watch it back before I posted it and realized that I left out pretty much most of day one, and most of day two just didn't even hardly talk about anything. I think I just couldn't hardly think, I was so tired. But anyway, so the recap of Hartwell and what happened. So I go out on day one, because I haven't posted any videos since the last day of practice. But day one of the tournament, I went out kind of with the plan that I was going to go through and hit just as fast as I could, hit some of the major areas down there, try to catch some big spots early and just keep cycling through that stuff, and hopefully, end up with a 13-ish pound limit after day one. 13-15 pounds, somewhere around there was the plan. That was where I needed to be. So I go out, and first few spots I went through, I couldn't get them to bite. Got to the lower end of the lake, couldn't get them to bite. Then it was about 9 o'clock in the morning or so. I caught two real quick. One of them was a little keeper, and I went to start cycling through some stuff again because I felt like I was right on the edge of figuring them out on something that I could do to catch them. So I had been throwing a lot in practice, just in some random areas and stuff, this little bitty sonar minnow on a crappie jig head, and that was something that I felt like about anywhere I was able to at least get them to bite it. And it wasn't working so far, and then I caught a couple on it real quick, and I switched spots, and when I went to switch spots, I couldn't hardly get up on plane. And if you've been familiar with my channel at all, I had something similar happen on Ross Barnett, and it was my bilge pump went out again. This is a different bilge pump, so this is the second one this year. And kind of what happened at that tournament, only this, I was pretty far away from takeoff. It's very, very difficult to get down there to work on the bilge pumps out on the water. I've got the tools in the boat to do it. I kicking myself at this point in the tournament when that happened, because I had actually said that I was gonna at least throw some type of backup pump in there that I could at least get the water out if I needed to. So I go to try to figure out what's wrong with it. The last time it turned out that something had got in it and burned it up, a zip tie head or something. So I'm digging through there. So that's when I find out, as I'm working on this thing, that a seal in the back corner of my boat, I guess, has started leaking. And because I have so much water in my boat, me and the co-angler and the live well's full, there's water coming in through the back corner of the boat now, also with the bilge pump out. So I go from working in just enough water back there to where it was kind of difficult to get on plane, to I'm up in like 20 minutes of messing with this thing up to my elbow, just digging down through the water in there. I get the bilge pump off, and I'm looking at it. There was a little piece of plastic. I don't even know exactly what it was from, but somehow it ended up back there, and got in it. I pulled it out, put it back together. Pump wasn't. Well, I guess it burned it up when it was with that piece of plastic in there, and it wasn't working at all. I mean, just would barely push any water, not enough to even get it out of the tube. So I put that back in there, throw everything back together real quick, and we're able to get it up on plane, barely able to get it back up. Boat was absolutely full of water. I got back close to takeoff and called tournament director, because I figured that I would have to, I thought that there was a possibility that I would have to throw that fish back, but I needed to take my boat out of the water to drain what water was in it, so that then we could kind of be careful the rest of the day to not get too much water in, setting it down and everything, and at least fish the rest of the day. So I called the tournament director. I was like, hey, I need to put my boat on the trailer to drain the water out, and he said he was fine with that. I didn't have to throw my catch back which it was just a 12-incher anyway, it didn't matter. And we pulled up, at this point we've burned like 2.5 hours at least doing all this stuff, and we get the water out. We go back out at it was afternoon, I maybe noon, 1 o'clock. Got back out on the water, caught a couple immediately. Things were looking good, and then I was throwing a Ned rig because I was looking on the live scope, and I started noticing they were stuck to the bottom in a lot of the places I was going to. So I tied on a Ned rig real quick, threw it out there, caught a keeper, cycled through some more areas, and then a little bit later I hooked a really good one, and it made a run. I don't know what happened with my spinning reel, but the drag like locked up on it for a second and it broke me off. And then 15 minutes after that, I had a 3-pounder on, lost it under the boat. Ended up coaling up at the end of the day just a little bit, coaled that 12-incher out, and still, I mean, coaled up by ounces. I ended up weighing in 5 or 6 pounds at the end of the day. So that pretty much took me out of it. I mean, I needed 20 pounds on day 2 to even think about, doing anything. So I went back, got the bilge pump working. Pretty much I didn't have time to dig into everything in the back because it was going to take a while. So by the time I got back, I ended up putting like gator clips on the wires and just to where I could hook it straight up to the battery. And I ran to Academy and grabbed a new pump, threw in there. Go back out on day 2. Pretty much the plan on day 2, I was going to try the spots for just a little bit in the morning, and then I was going to go fish for largemouth. So I go out, caught, I went out and didn't catch anything spot wise. I went out and it was kind of the same thing as the previous morning. The bait had moved out a little bit deeper, not in the areas that I was confident in, which the day before I had cycled through a lot of areas that I knew, and I had saved a bunch for the tournament, just didn't even fish it because I thought that I would be able to get them to bite there, and I couldn't. So day 2 of the tournament, when it didn't really work out that well in the morning, real quick, I gave it like 30 minutes and I went largemouth fishing. Caught 2 on a chatterbait around some docks really quick, then caught 3 more or so that were just non-keepers, and one that was like barely 12 inches. So I had about 10 o'clock or so, 10:30, I had 3 that were not big at all. I mean, 3 for maybe like 3.5 pounds. So I go back out. At this point I was really just more interested in trying to learn a little bit more about what was going on, try to fish for the spots some more and everything, because I had lost what was going on at some point in between the end of practice and day 2 of the tournament, and so I was just kind of fishing around trying to figure out what I could do to catch them, because I had gone so far away from where I thought I would things that I thought I could catch them on. It was not working at all. So I went back out and tried the spots for a little bit more. Ended up catching a couple on a shallow running crankbait on some of the shoals and stuff, and it was kind of that the rest of the day. It was I tried some largemouth areas and it wasn't working, but I just tried them briefly, went and did a lot of the stuff that I thought would work, and it didn't. Ended up with exactly the same weight on day 2 as day 1. I weighed 6 pounds each day, which is terrible on Hartwell. And I really didn't even want to leave because I wanted to go back out, which I had to get back to work. But I wanted to go back out and just keep trying to figure out what was going on, because the 2 days of the tournament just left me dumbfounded as to what I thought I would be able to get bid on and what I didn't get bid on. Just a lot of stuff that should have worked and didn't. And my co-angler on day 2, we were talking about that. He said, or day 1 or day 2 co-angler, he was like, it almost hurts you knowing what they should be biting on, because there were so many areas that I threw what I thought was the right stuff, and you could watch them on the live scope just come up and look at it and take off. I mean, you'd have 20 of them come up off a cane pile and look at you and just go right back to it, like it was they were scared of it or something. But anyway, Hartwell was terrible. I just pretty much just took the boat out here on Seminole to make sure everything was running. I had to redo a bunch of wiring for the pumps and all that so that I didn't have another pump problem again in one of these tournaments, and make sure the boat was running good before we head to Texas for Sam Rayburn. And of course my jack plate quit working, so I'm gonna go home and I've got some spare parts for it, so I'm gonna try to work through that, get it going, and then head to Texas. But anyway, thanks for watching the video, guys. Hopefully I'll have something a little better for you on Sam Rayburn. That's the last term of the year, and I need some type of comeback there because I've had a couple few horrible tournaments in the year in a row this year. This has been my worst year ever so far. So I need a good finish on Rayburn to get my chi back together. Thanks for watching the video, guys. See you on the next one.